So this is a heavy topic, but one that needed to be addressed and uncovered. She Said is the new drama that looks at Harvey Weinstein and what became the Me Too movement. It stars Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan. So how is this drama? New York Times reporters Megan Twohey and Jodi Kantor break one of the most important stories in a generation, a story that helped ignite a movement and shattered decades of silence around the subject of sexual assault in Hollywood. Now, this is a very emotional movie, and it's also emotionally draining to watch because of how devastating it is to hear all of the accounts of sexual assault and then how frustrating it was to build the story. Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan are awesome as they painstakingly try to uncover all the details of what Harvey Weinstein was allowed to perpetrate over the decades. And while this is based on fact, I'm not sure where elements of dramatization may be included, but regardless of that, the storytelling is very engaging, and I really appreciate how respectfully the film treats the victims. There's one point where a victim is found by Mulligan's character Twohey, but they don't use her name. She's constantly unnamed when being discussed, and that just goes to protect her identity. Now, the pacing for this is slow and it's deliberate as the journalists painstakingly go through the facts and then try to get sources. The storytelling also reflects this arduous task. And there were moments when I felt the time passing, but I wasn't bored. I was just cognizant that the story was taking its time to be told. Now, I appreciate, though, that we get to see the process, that the film doesn't skip over the monotony of their job as they track down sources, attempt to get interviews, and just are constantly met with roadblocks and denials. The realism this helps to convey makes the drama more intriguing, and really, it sucked me into the characters. Both Mulligan and Kazan feel very emotionally invested in this, where their reactions and their mindsets are palpable. Now, I was really intrigued by some of the narrative choices for this. As we hear reenactments of Harvey Weinstein audio, the camera will slowly push down an empty hallway of a hotel. Now, it creates a lonely and even creepy setting as the audio just horrifyingly plays. It's retelling atrocious behavior and tactics. Now, in addition to Mulligan and Kazan, there are some really good performances from Patricia Richardson, Jennifer Ehle, Samantha Morton, Ashley Judd, Andre Brauhger, Zach Grenier, and Peter Friedman. Now, each of these help to put the story into perspective and then craft the accounts in very convincing ways. Now, while watching this, it certainly has a feel of another investigative journalist movie, Spotlight. Now, I don't see that really as a bad thing, especially because this movie is also bringing to light horrific behaviors and situations that need to be addressed and fixed. Now, the emotional arc to this is touching, but it's also difficult at times due to just how sickening it all was. As the reporters do their interviews, we see the hurt and the trauma being relived in the eyes of the characters. And it's draining, and it's even oppressive at times with how heavy the subject is with the retelling of these assaults. And the story also does a really great job of showing us the emotional impact that researching the story has on both Twohey and Kantor. We see and hear how this affects their sleep, their relationships, overall health, and the way it causes ongoing nightmares. The actors, they look harrowed, like the actual weight of the information is gnawing at them and devouring them from the inside, and with their only remedy really to keep going and get a source to go on the record. Now, there's also a very brave performance in here that I wasn't expecting. We have actors who perform the reenactment audio, and they sound amazingly like the people that they're portraying, but there's one who is involved in the case who plays themselves, and it added just a whole new level of realism and impact to the story. Now, we were seeing trauma directly from the victim, not somebody portraying the victim, and that's an element that just made this movie all the more great. Now, I'd mentioned how this feels long, and while it is important to show all of the steps the journalists take in developing, researching, and then fact-checking their story, we do get several montage-type scenes that can feel a bit monotonous. I think this is where most are really going to have an issue with the film. It drags, and if you're not fully invested in the characters that we're given, this could become a chore to endure. Now, personally, I was all in and I was loving the building intensity, but I also know that it was a slow process and that ramp toward a climax, it's very long. The content is difficult too. It's not an easy subject to watch, but the presentation is excellent and very engaging also, but it certainly takes that time to build. So overall, She Said captures the emotional rawness and impact of Harvey Weinstein's crimes against many women during his career in Hollywood. Both Mulligan and Kazan turn in outstanding performances as the real-life journalists who brought the story to light. And while the pace is slow as the story details the research that went into the article, the presentation is wonderfully shot and told in a gripping, slow-burn manner. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and while no violence is actually shown, there are a bunch of horrific descriptions of sexual assault. I give She Said 4 out of 5 couches. So what's a good drama you've seen recently? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.